Disney trivia question. This one may shock you. What do you think the evil queen said to her magic mirror? If you said, mirror, mirror on the wall, you're wrong. It's actually magic mirror on the wall. But years of the Mandela effect have gaslit us into remembering this wrong. Magic mirror on the wall, who's the best animator of them all? Dang, although I kind of agree. But now you know the answer to this.
These are some crazy Mandela effects that'll confuse you. And the third one confused me the most. When you think of the Mona Lisa, that painting, what expression do you picture on her face? For most people, when they think of the Mona Lisa, they imagine her with a blank expression. But in reality, she's smirking. I could have sworn that she had the most plain blank face. Alright, look at these two pictures of this Kit Kat. Which one is the correct one? Does the Kit Kat have a dash or have no dash? The correct answer is it has no dash, but everybody remembers it having a dash. Next, this really confused the shit out of me. The Curious George monkey, did it or did it not have a tail? It never had a tail, even though monkeys have tails. How weird is that?
By remembering and asking these questions yourself, you can determine if the data is cherry-picked to support a particular belief, the source has an open mind but not so open their brains fall out, the experiment is repeatable with the same results, there are supporting materials, most of the evidence leans in one direction, there is evidence in favor of the theory rather than negative evidence, the new theory explains all the things the old theory explained, and there is no confirmation bias. So, by putting the Mandela effect to the Baloney detection test, you can determine that none of the prevailing theories hold water. Given the facts and faced with a faulty memory, is there anything else you can do to strengthen your Baloney detector? Have you ever seen or heard something that felt just a little off? Maybe you're fairly certain you remember an event one way, but when you do a Google search, the information you find doesn't line up with your memory. It can be frustrating, confusing, and can even make you wonder if you're starting to lose your mind or if you've stumbled on a government conspiracy. Turns out there's a name for what you just experienced. It's called the Mandela effect, and it's more common than you might have imagined. But what is this phenomenon, and why is it called the Mandela effect? We're going deep into the topic, and everything starts right now. So, what is the Mandela effect? Well, in part one of this series of videos devoted to it, let's discuss the definition first. The Mandela effect is a strange occurrence where large groups of people remember an event that didn't occur or something that never existed. The group usually recalls the exact same thing in the exact same way. And it's named after Nelson Mandela and his supposed death in prison in the 1980s. In fact, this former South African president was released from prison in 1990 and lived until 2013. But back in 2009, Fiona Broom launched a website dedicated to the exploration of the Mandela effect. She wanted to explore and document memories that didn't match our current reality and its history. And since that time, the Mandela effect has continued to capture our collective attention. Fun fact, the subject was even broached by the writers of The X-Files, the recent reboot. So what types of events and products could cause mass misremembering? Here are a few times where memories don't match the facts. So, like I said, Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s, the phenomena that started it all. Except for the fact that he didn't. I know this with some certainty because I've read the book and it's filled with some dates that do not seem fictionalized. Nelson Mandela was a South African anti-apartheid political leader who served as president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. Before he was elected, he served a total of 27 non-consecutive years in prison for various political crimes against the state. While he did suffer from tuberculosis in the late 1980s, he did not die. In fact, he was released from prison in 1990 and went on to be elected president just over 4 years later. One of the most famous examples beyond Nelson Mandela of the Mandela effect are the Berenstain Bears. If you Google Berenstain Bears, one of the first questions people ask is, why did they change the name of the Berenstain Bears? Since their original publication in 1962, these delightful treehouse-dwelling bears have been beloved by many. In the 1980s, the characters experienced an upswing in product licensing. This included an animated series, software and video games, museum exhibits, and even an Broadway musical. So despite a large number of parents and children remembering the Berenstain Bears, there's more than enough evidence out there that the name was always Berenstain. And one of the most famous and most repeated misquotes comes from one of the greatest movie franchises in history. In the dialogue between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in 1980's Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, Vader does not say, "Luke, I am your father." Despite what the widely repeated and memed quote would have you believe, Darth Vader's revelation has one single word changed. "No, I am your father." Sorry, movie buffs, you've been saying it wrong for almost 4 decades. Now that you've seen a few Mandela effect examples, you might wonder, how can so many people be convinced of the same wrong events and occurrences? There are many different explanations for what's going on with the Mandela effect, ranging from the fanciful to the mundane. Storytelling is woven into the human experience. From our earliest recorded history, human beings have told each other stories to share wisdom. And the more imaginative the story, the more entertainment value it holds for the listener. When it comes time to explain what's really behind the Mandela effect, stories come out of the woodwork. Whether it's a multiverse, parallel universe, or the Matrix, we're diving deep to find the explanation, and it all starts right now. Now, in part 2 of our series on the Mandela effect, we're going to start with one of the most shared and fanciful storylines, the idea that humanity is experiencing an alternate reality. Indeed, some people believe we're constantly sliding between parallel realities, and the memories that don't make any sense are from an alternate reality. Say, one where the Berenstain Bears existed. Another angle on this theory is that we're experiencing a many worlds interpretation. It's a theory of quantum mechanics implying that all possible outcomes are physically realized in some universe or other. Others believe that we're living in a version of the Matrix or a large-scale holodeck, and the Mandela effect memories are a glitch, much like the déjà vu Neo experiences when the black cat walks past the door twice in the Matrix. There's even a theory that certain quantum science tests, including a CERN project or two, may have transformed the fabric of our reality. And because quantum physics is such a complex science, there is no way to scientifically disprove any of these theories. But there is also no scientific proof. There is, however, a human aspect to these types of misremembering. To err is human, or so goes the line in Alexander Pope's An Essay on Criticism. Were you aware that for most big sporting events in the United States, the Super Bowl, World Series, etc., the winner merchandise gets printed ahead of time? Do you wonder what happens to the t-shirts, hats, and other merch of the losing team? And did you know that in 1948, the Chicago Tribune printed papers declaring Thomas Dewey the victor over Harry Truman before the final electoral count came in? Or that in 1956, the New York Times ran an item announcing the death of Fidel Castro, who didn't actually die until 2016? Whether it's due to human error or bad reporting, there are times when false information gets out into the world. So now let's take a look at the honest truth. Your brain is likely the culprit in many Mandela effect occurrences. As Carl Sagan said, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Our minds are complex. Even in 2019, neuroscientists are still figuring out the basic facts about the human brain, and that complex system gets things wrong a lot. Take Hermann Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve. His research observed that most people forget newly acquired information within the span of a few hours, and even those with stronger memories kept those facts for at most a few days. It's possible to overcome the forgetting curve, but it takes hard work and reinforcing what you learn at regular intervals. Chances are, current events and popular culture tidbits aren't the kind of thing you spend time trying to memorize. So it stands to reason, most of those memories aren't retained. Compounding the issue is the fallibility of memory in human error or bad reporting. There are times when false information gets out into the world. So now let's take a look at the honest truth. Your brain is likely the culprit in many Mandela effect occurrences. False memories occur when a person recalls something that did not happen or happened differently than they recall. Sound familiar? Sigmund Freud and Pierre Genet initially investigated this psychological phenomenon, and since that time, suggestibility, the incorporation of misinformation, associated information, and source misattribution have been suggested as mechanisms to explain false memory syndrome. The unreliability of eyewitness reports has long been known. Simply changing an article in a question, for example, the versus a, referring to an object in question, can change the answer a witness gives about what they saw. Then there's priming, or factors that happen before an event. It can affect a person's recall. Information learned after the fact can also skew what an eyewitness remembers. The brain likes to encode similar memories into categories so it can make sense of the world, and humans naturally tend to look for patterns. Chunking allows the brain to store information in easy-to-remember packets. Incorrect recall can also be caused by effort after meaning. This is the brain's persistent effort to put unfamiliar details into context and transform information to make it more understandable. Also responsible for memory errors, especially with age, is confabulation, where your brain fills gaps to make more sense of what it sees and hears. And even people with aphantasia, who don't have the capacity to form mental images, usually still have the capacity to recall memories. The memory is just a conceptual list of things that occurred, rather than a video playing in their head. But does the written word make a difference in how we remember things? The brain is quite skilled at making sense out of randomness. Take, for example, our ability to read letters and words that are in the wrong order. Randomizing letters in the middle of words has little or no effect on the ability of skilled readers to understand the text. However, it does result in slower reading speeds for most people. Coming back to the Mandela effect examples from part 1, let's look at how Fruit Loops also fits the brain's desire for spelling sense. Berenstain is a weird word that can't be correct due to the incongruity between children's literature and what stain means. The mind probably corrects it to fit the appropriate picture. In similar fashion, Fruit Loops shares in this make it fit correction. Every time I think of the Berenstain Bears, the comedy film The Bad News Bears comes to mind. But because there is no spelling incongruity, there is less likelihood of the Bad News Bears becoming a Mandela effect trend. Leaving behind the individual human brain, let's explore the collective human brain, the internet. Never before in human history has information flowed so freely and been shared so widely. Misconceptions and falsehoods easily gain traction because of their entertainment value. Then they are quickly and easily shared via the seemingly endless online platforms connecting the human race. In a world where tweets about earthquakes move faster than the earthquake itself, false information spreads just as quickly. And with each repetition, the frequently repeated errors become part of our collective reality. Why is this a problem? We're diving deep into the answer, and it all gets started right now. Given that the internet exposes us to so much repetition, it seems like the cards are stacked against us and our memory is letting us down. How can we tell what memories are true and what's a figment of our imaginations? It's time to bust out the debunking tools and talk about why critical thinking is key to weeding out the damaging nonsense and keeping the things that help our species survive. In a world of false memories, human error, internet untruths, presumptive baloney, and high emotions, you need a way to figure out what is truthful and factual. While there are several different definitions of critical thinking, for the purposes of this video, we'll keep it simple. Critical thinking involves analyzing facts to come to a well-thought-out conclusion. In the words of Carl Sagan, we can use critical thinking as our own personal baloney detection kit. In science, every experiment begins with facts. These might be results, data, observations, measurements, which are then put to the test. Michael Shermer drew on Sagan's work and created a newer version of the kit. Here are his 10 baloney detection questions. How reliable is the source of the claim? Does the source often make similar claims? Have the claims been verified by someone else? Does this fit with the way the world works? Has anyone tried to disprove this claim? Where does the preponderance of evidence point? Are the people making the claim playing by the rules of science? Are they providing positive evidence? Does the new theory account for as many phenomena as the old theory? Are personal beliefs, ideologies driving the claim? By remembering and asking these questions yourself, you can determine if the data is cherry-picked to support a particular belief, the source has an open mind but not so open their brains fall out, the experiment is repeatable with the same results, there are supporting materials, most of the evidence leans in one direction, there is evidence in favor of the theory rather than negative evidence, the new theory explains all the things the old theory explained, and there is no confirmation bias. So, by putting the Mandela effect to the baloney detection test, you can determine that none of the prevailing theories hold water. Given the facts and faced with a faulty memory, is there anything else you can do to strengthen your baloney detector?
This has been a Pinguinati production. If you'd like to support the channel, links are in the description.